Hey, everybody. So, a little while ago, I quoted a Gemara which talked about the idea of when you say prayers, the main thing is that you should understand them. And therefore, if you don't understand the Hebrew, it's perfectly fine and actually considered better to say them in a language you understand, English, whatever your number one language is. And that's perfectly fine. Yes, it would be great if you do it in Hebrew, but again, the main thing is that you should understand what you are saying. So it happens to be that this week we come across some other insights about prayers. Now, when it comes to prayers, there's the formalized prayers that we do in synagogue, and then there's just praying whenever. You certainly can pray. You don't have to be in a synagogue to daven, to pray, or speak to God. You could do it whenever or wherever. Obviously, the rabbis say, we point out that there's an advantage to doing it in a minyan, in a group, because prayers are more readily accepted and heard when we're with a crowd as opposed to just by ourselves. Now, you might ask the question, like, come on, God understands everything. What difference does it make if you're in a crowd or not? Yeah, we, so to speak, say, like, we understand God on our terms, not on his terms, even though he's outside of time and space. And so we kind of pretend that he operates like we do. And just like a king will listen to a petition if a bunch of people are coming and presenting it to him, as opposed to just one individual, that's kind of how God works in terms of answering our prayers. That's the advantage of praying in a group, in a synagogue, at the kotel, whatever the case may be, as opposed to just individual ones. But again, it's perfectly fine to pray on your own, wherever and whenever, as the situation might be. When we pray, the Shemona Esrei, the silent meditation, the Amidah, that is the most essential prayer. And it's structured, and a lot of people have problems going to synagogue because it's the exact same words. They're not my words, they're not my personal words. It's just a structure of certain prayers. The idea behind that is these prayers are trying to sensitize us to what's crucial and important. And so when we get to the request part of the Shemona Esrei, for instance, we start off by asking for wisdom. That's very essential, very crucial. Tshuva, so it's trying to sensitize us to what's important in life. But the Gemara comes along and tells us, despite the fact that there are the exact wording that the Anshe Knesset Gedola, the people who put together the Siddur, even though we have those exact words, that doesn't mean you can't still interject your own prayers. And so, for instance, it says, Shoal Adam Sarcha B'Shomei Tefillah. The prayer, there's this one part of the prayer, Shomei Tefillah, it's at the end of the request sections, and it's kind of like a catch-all that we ask God to listen to our prayers. So the Gemara tells us that at that point, before you finish the blessing, you have a personal prayer that you want to say that's not in the body of the Shemona Esrei. It's something that you want to say on your own, in your own words. Go for it. That's what the Talmud says, is you don't have to just stick to the structure of the Shemona Esrei, of the Siddur. You can add things as well. And then it elaborates on it a little bit more, and it tells us that even though a person can ask whatever they want in Shomei Tefillah, in that prayer like we just said, Aval im balomar besof kol bracha bracha me'en kol bracha bracha. Still, a person could say in the earlier blessings, depending on the subject matter, a personal request that's associated with that personal matter. So they give a couple examples. Im yesh lo choleh betoch beito omer b'brachat cholim. That if somebody is sick, that you know, that's dear to you, and you want to pray for them, there's a special blessing in the Shemona Esrei to heal the sick. Insert the person that you're praying for then and talk about that. Or, im tzarich parnasa, if you need to make a living, business isn't going so well, you want to do better. Omer b'brachat hashanim, the blessing that we ask for sustenance from God, that's when you say, God, help me with this business deal, let it go through, let this thing happen so I can make a pile of bucks. It's perfectly okay. So based on the blessing itself, you can add a personal prayer in your own words within those structured prayers. And then finally, it even goes so far as to say, even at the end of the prayer, the very, very beginning, at the end we say, Osa Shalom b'mamav. Before the line right before that, it says that a person could pray for whatever he wants, even like the whole Yom Kippur prayer service. You want to sit there for an hour and do all these personal petitions and prayers and asks and requests, knock yourself out. You can spend as much time as you want. So we're not beholden to just the structure of prayer. One last point about this. People pray for a lot of things. They pray for health. They pray for parnasa. They pray for a livelihood, like we said. Or they pray that their kids should be successful. You know what I tell people, though? And I ask people, those who are married, have you ever prayed for your marriage? Have you ever prayed that you have a good marriage? That's usually not up there on people's thoughts of what to pray for. Yeah, health, sure. And making a good living, and that the kids should be well, and that the kids should be successful. What about having a great relationship with your spouse? Do you pray for that? I do. It's unfortunate that you don't hear that too often. So maybe start thinking about that if you are married, to pray for a successful relationship, or any successful relationship. If you're having trouble with one of your kids, a successful relationship with one of your children, whatever the case may be, that too should be part of the hit parade of your prayers. Have a good Shabbat.